What's up, Taiwan? I'm Liao with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The Trump administration's pick for a top Pentagon position is echoing the U.S. president's calls for Taiwan to increase its defense spending all the way to 10% of GDP. Cadence Quaranto reports.
The nominee to lead the Pentagon's decision-making on the Indo-Pacific region is grilled by U.S. senators at his confirmation hearing and reveals steep expectations for Taiwan's defense spending.
And I strongly believe that Taiwan needs to do its part and to pay and to increase its defense spending. It was President Trump who said that Taiwan, which is an island that faces an existential threat from the People's Liberation Army, from the Chinese military, that Taiwan should spend upwards to 10% of its GDP on defense. I strongly support that.
That's twice the amount that President Lai Ching-te has pledged to spend on defense, announcing in August that he would push it up to 5% of GDP before 2030, as Taiwan faces continuous pressure from the U.S. to raise its budget amid heightened tensions with China, which claims Taiwan and has not ruled out the use of force to bring the country under its control. Responding to No's comments, Taiwan's defense ministry stayed strong on its 5% goal. The 10% demand, experts say, is unrealistic.
我的观察，这是川普那边一些人的单独的说法。从全世界角度来看，目前没有一个民主国家的国防预算可以到达 GDP 的10%，所以依照中华民国目前这个总的预算来看的话，我们如果可以达到5%，应该是一个甜蜜点。
But already, Taiwan's push to increase defense spending is facing difficulties. The legislature is at a stalemate over the proposed budget for next year, which includes a defense budget of more than 3% GDP, a sharp increase from this year. It's facing pushback from some opposition lawmakers, who are rejecting the entire budget proposal because it fails to include pay raises for soldiers. Legislators from both of Taiwan's major parties say they support increasing defense spending, but opposition parties made major cuts and freezes on this year's budget, meaning Taiwan's government could have an uphill battle ahead of them, as pressure from Washington to spend more on the military becomes even greater. Hank Xu, Patrick Chen, Alan Liu, and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
The head of Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, which manages relations with China, says that Taipei is open to dialogue with Beijing.
We call on the mainland China to see his pressure against Taiwan, face up the objective reality of the existence of the ROC Taiwan, and adopt a pragmatic attitude to engage in the positive interaction with the Taiwan democratically elected government.
Cho was speaking at the Taipei Security Dialogue. Beijing cut off communication with Taipei in 2016, after then-President Tsai Ing-wen would not endorse the idea that Taiwan and the mainland are part of one China, though some communication at the city level still continues. Electronics manufacturer Pegatron has purchased a factory in Texas for over $30 million, marking another move to the U.S. by a Taiwanese tech giant. The company says the business park it bought in Blue Springs, Texas, will be for production and operational use. Industry sources say the facility will likely focus on making servers. Other Taiwanese companies that have also expanded their operations to the U.S. include chip giants TSMC, Global Wafers, and Topco Scientific, as well as electronics makers Foxconn, Compal Electronics, and Quanta Computer, Wistron, and Inventec. This latest deal follows the U.S. administration's push to revitalize U.S. manufacturing amid tariff negotiations. Taiwan's big tech companies are increasing their investments in the U.S. to better serve their largest customer market and to avoid tariffs. Our reporter Ai Chi spoke with economist Darson Chu of the Confederation of Asia-Pacific Chambers of Commerce and Industry to find out what this means for Taiwan's role in the global tech supply chain.
We are seeing a number of Taiwanese tech firms making huge investments in the U.S., the latest being Pegatron buying a factory in Texas. How might this wave of investment stateside impact Taiwan's supply chain?
当这些大厂呢，他们拨出一部分的资源到美国去投资的话，那可能非常可能就会压缩到在台湾的这种生产的量能跟相关的投资，所以说对未来台湾的这个 GDP 的成长力的拉抬，就可能产生一些影响。因为我们台湾在过去这几十年来经济拉抬的主力那所依赖的其实就是这些高科技业的投资跟出口。那所以说这个是台湾经济成长的根本。那这个也是为什么即便在川普的对等关税的影响之下，我们的传统产业基本上都非常的低迷。但是呢，台湾的经济成长呢，仍然在今年上看 5% 最主要的原因。那不过呢，如果说我们连这个引擎呢，未来都因为投资美国而被这个稀释了它的这个拉抬动能的话，那其实就我们应该要未雨绸缪。
Taiwan's economy minister on Wednesday said, despite companies like TSMC investing in the U.S., production of advanced technology will remain in Taiwan. How can Taiwan leverage its position in this situation?
目前的话，当然是最主要最高阶的晶片还是在台湾生产，但是在未来呢，要避免就是说这种高阶的技术外移，而导致就是说台湾没有在相关的这个领域持续拥有这个比较优势的话呢，就是应该不断的朝这种供应链上游移动。也就是持续的投入研发，然后让这个技术呢跟现在台湾打算外移的这些厂的这种技术能够拉开。那但是在这一部分的话，当然也是希望政府能够予以协助，比如说在这个人才的培育，在这种比如说一些租税，还有各种方面的补贴。
That was Darson Chu from the Confederation of Asia-Pacific Chambers of Commerce and Industry. 3 years ago, the U.S. launched extensive export controls targeting China's tech sector. The rules have redrawn the map for the global AI industry and sparked a high-stakes battle for tech supremacy. Chris Gordon brings us this special report.
On October 7, 2022, the U.S. drops a bombshell on the tech world, sweeping new export controls, aiming to cut China off from advanced chips and the tools to make them. Coming just weeks before ChatGPT would set off the AI boom, the decision would strongly shape U.S.-China relations and global tech competition over the next 3 years.
Last week, we launched significant, carefully tailored restrictions on semiconductor technology exports to the PRC. These technologies are used to develop and field advanced military systems, including weapons of mass destruction, hypersonic missiles, autonomous systems, and mass surveillance.
While previous restrictions had targeted single companies like China's Huawei in 2019, this was a major escalation, covering the entire chip supply chain.
What happened between 2019 and 2022 was AI, right? I mean, basically, AI came into the picture. And the idea was, wow, AI is getting really capable. And at some point, you might want to control who has access to it, in particular, malicious actors.
There are different perspectives, and I served in the Biden administration around this time. And so I know that the federal government the Biden administration, the federal government was very focused on targeting and not kind of the whole supply chain, essentially, of semiconductor and underlying AI technologies.
Beijing strongly objected from the start, calling it an attempt to contain China.
美方将科技和经贸问题政治化、工具化、武器化，阻挡不了中国发展，只会封锁自己，反噬自身。
Beijing feel like this is a clear signal of containment of China, and they were shocked at the scope of these type of controls.
A key enforcement tool, known as the Foreign Direct Product Rule, extended the ban not just to U.S.-made products, but to any product made with U.S. technology anywhere in the world. That had a huge impact, even on companies in Taiwan, like chip giant TSMC.
Even in 2020, TSMC had to stop collaboration with Huawei. And at that time, Huawei was something like 15% of TSMC's revenue. The China market, if you look at TSMC and where it was poised to go before the controls, was certainly impacted.
The rules applied not only to chips, but also chip-making tools like lithography systems. That required buy-in from governments and companies in countries like the Netherlands and Japan, where these key tools are produced. In October 2023, almost exactly 1 year after the controls began, the U.S. expanded restrictions to cover new China-only models from NVIDIA and other loopholes, while China banned exports to the U.S. of critical minerals used in military and 5G devices. In April 2025, President Trump, back in the White House, announced his Liberation Day tariffs on every foreign country. China was hit hardest of all, with some tariffs exceeding 100%. China retaliated by issuing its toughest restrictions yet, cutting off multiple rare earth minerals to U.S. companies.
That's a moment where rubber meets the road, and the U.S. decision maker realized, oh, they have a bargaining chip too, and it's equally powerful as ours.
Just as the tech war seemed to reach a boiling point, both sides pulled back. By June, tariffs were lowered and rare earth bans were lifted. But the friction continues. NVIDIA's attempt to sell its China-only H20 chip saw White House intervention, with Trump demanding a 15% cut of its sales. The U.S. recently extended export controls to the subsidiaries of sanctioned Chinese firms. After 3 years of export controls, have they worked as their creators intended?
At one level, yes, you could argue there has been success in slowing down the ability of Chinese companies to train advanced AI models. However, at the same time, Chinese AI models are very capable, and Chinese companies now dominate the leaderboard for virtually all open source, open weight models.
Now, all eyes are on the upcoming APEC summit in South Korea, where the two presidents are scheduled to meet and negotiate a potential deal.
When are they going to close the TikTok deal? Whether China will purchase those soybeans and airplanes, and whether U.S. government will take half step back on their Taiwan position. I think those are things that take a lot of time to negotiate those details.
Regardless of any deal, the underlying competition may be here to stay.
There aren't all that many areas of overlap in our last two U.S. administrations' thinking and approaches, but on export controls and on U.S.-China technology competition, especially in these really important technology areas, there has been continuity.
3 years after export controls began, AI is more critical to our lives and the global economy than ever. And control over that technology remains the key to growth, diplomacy, and power. John Su and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
19 people are now confirmed dead in eastern Taiwan 2 weeks after a mountain lake burst its banks and flooded the town of Guangfu. Rescue workers found the latest body in a car at an industrial lot. They're believed to be a missing gravel yard owner. If confirmed, that would leave 5 people still unaccounted for. Tens of thousands of volunteers have traveled to the area to help with cleanup efforts, but officials warn the work is dangerous, citing one volunteer excavator who died from infection. Authorities urge volunteers to be careful and say they're relying on military engineers to carry out dangerous recovery work. And thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a look at art collective Team Lab opening its first permanent museum in Kyoto, Japan. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
Wow, this is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?